Backyard Professor Chess videos. I'm here on the beautiful South Fork of the Snake River. I showed you that introduction shot. I was going to have it as the background, but it's so windy off the river you'll never hear my voice in the camera. So the river's just right over here about 10 feet from me, and I've got this magnificent cliff up behind me. Unfortunately, my ugly face is going to be marring the view of the cliff, but you're supposed to be paying attention to the chessboard anyway. I'm talking about rooks, and in the process of learning how to use our rooks, learning the do's and don'ts, learning the strong points and how to improve the power of our chess games, I was studying this game. I'm going to illustrate one of the principles with rooks, the Alakin gun. I was studying it quite a few years ago in the chess games of Alexander Alakin, and I played through the game where Alakin just mowed Aaron Nimzovich over completely, and it was beautiful. It was well done. It so impressed me, I wanted to play my own Alakin gun. So I did. And here's the game that I played. I deliberately played it and set it up so that my opponent would exchange the pieces that I wanted him to exchange so that I could put together an Alakin gun. And it worked out beautifully. He didn't realize that I was trying to play for the Alakin gun. I was just playing simple everyday chess. He immediately takes this pawn, my e4 pawn. And this time it's okay with me. I go ahead and castle. I say, you know, I want to castle speedily because I want to have a certain type of open file. Notice how he's attacking me in the center. I drop my bishop back, trying to keep this wonderful long diagonal, because I recognize that he's going to castle kingside, is my suspicion, because of the way the game is going. So we're both thrusting to the center, and now I'm 2 pawns down, which is okay at this point, I think, to myself, because I'm setting up an Alakin gun, and I kind of want the center to be open. I'm deliberately provoking him to come after my pieces. And instead of putting the bishop back here, I can't put there, of course, I've got him doubled pawns in the center, you notice. Now I can use this to be a weakness, but notice this, doubled pawns are not necessarily a weakness. He has control of very important center squares, and they're center squares in my territory. So I have to be careful here. That's not a weakness necessarily. In order to provoke him to exchange, rather than bringing my bishop back to the center, I bring it over to my king side where I have already castled, and he does it. He falls right into my deadly little trap. There's no deadly trap, relax. What I am wanting to do is take that knight with that pawn so that I can open up this file for my rook. This is what I want to do. And so at this point in time, my plan, I believe, is working really beautifully. And he brings up his bishop, pinning my knight to my queen. I develop my other knight so that I don't have to worry about that knight. And he brings up his knight here, attacking this knight twice. So I'm, you know, kind of in a little bit of a conundrum. I press my pawn up against his bishop, and it provokes him to exchange the knight. And I say, yes, I will. Obviously, I have no choice. I have to exchange the power. I don't want to be a power down. Now he brings in his other knight to exchange this knight. And at this point is the beginning of my setup for my Alakin gun. Rather than take him with my pawn, and it's true, it would undouble my pawns, I take him with my rook, because I want to utilize this open file for me. I'm being very stingy here. He develops his bishop down here, hoping to put some pressure on my king once he pushes this pawn. I centralize my queen, and in the process of centralizing my queen, I stop his advancing of this pawn. I don't want him to advance that pawn right now. And now he castles. castle's king side. So at this point, everything is going beautifully. I need to include my entire army. Always, always, always. I preach that till I'm blue in the face, and I'm stone cold serious. You must develop your entire army. So I whisk my other rook into effect. He brings his queen up one, coming over here. And I say, well, that's okay. I'm going to pop my rook up. Notice what my opponent does at this point. Now, I'm basically, for all essential purposes, I'm claiming this file. And my opponent sees that. It's not an open file for him because his pawn is in the way. It is an open file for me because my pawn is gone. I exchanged it. He grabs the next open file, though. You notice with his rooks, he's grabbing open files also. This is essential chess with your rooks. I cannot overemphasize that. Now, I pull my queen down here, and now I'm loaded with my Alakin gun. I'm ready for bear. This baby is ready to shoot up and come after this king. And his king is kind of loosely protected. He's really not in a good situation. Now, in the process of pulling my queen back and getting the Alakin gun, the two rooks backed with the queen, which is an extremely powerful weapon when you can do this. In the process, I didn't keep that pawn blocked, so he presses the pawn, and now his rook is directly, or his bishop, I should say, is directly challenging my rook, pinned my rook to my king. So, in a way, I was too hasty. Perhaps I should have moved my king out first. I was kind of miffed at that. I wish I would have paid better attention. I bring my bishop up here, and I skewer his queen and rook here. Now, you say, for Pete's sake, man, what a stupid move, because you're simply giving him your bishop. I'm trying to get his queen out of the way. I don't want his queen there to protect his king side. You can see right now there's really not a whole lot of buddies of the king protecting him. His king is really rather loose. His pawn structure is open. So I'm gonna sacrifice the bishop. I've got the Alakin gun. I'm going to sacrifice the bishop. Take my bishop. Take my bishop. Well, my opponent played a better move. He took my rook with his bishop check. I dropped my rook down, took his bishop, and now, of course, he wins the exchange. I sacrificed my bishop to get his queen way the heck over here and gone. And now I can shoot up here and nab that f7 pawn, and I have access to his complete 7th rank. Backed by my queen on that open file, this is a pretty good attack, except his queen is not going to sit idly by. He brings his queen down, nabs himself a pawn. I bring my queen right up to here, and you can see it's checkmate next move. Pop my queen right there. That's how powerful the Alakin gun can be. That's how powerful open files with your rooks as you use them can be. So pay attention to the idea of the themes of open files and 7th and 8th ranks. It's a critical part of your chess success, I promise. Watch what my opponent does. He's not going to sit idly by. He knows he's in checkmate next move. So he pops his rook all the way down and goes check. Of course, I dodge my king out. Well, that doesn't prevent checkmate for the next move. So he brings his rook right over to here, check, and I take his rook with my king. He's not done yet. He drops his queen down and goes check. Now notice this. He has a really good passed pawn. So in a way, this game is closer than it looks. Pretty interesting. Well, I dodge up here and I go uncheck. And he takes the pawn and he covers this diagonal. Very clever of him. Very clever of him. And I decide I'm going to swap the queens. Because I have enough, I believe, that I can still get him. and instead he takes the rook. He gave me his queen, but he got my rook. So he has a rook he hasn't used, and I've got his queen. So I come over here, of course, to block this passed pawn, and his rook immediately comes to the open file again. This is what you must do with rooks. Put them on the open files every time. I, of course, take the pawn. I don't need that kind of pressure. The king comes up. I push this pawn to prevent this pawn from advancing. I want to keep the king up there. He comes over here to protect this pawn because I didn't take it with my queen, but I come up here and take the h7 pawn. Now I've got the entire 7th rank, and I'm approaching his king, and of course his king is scampering away just as fast as he can. I come here, go check. He drops his rook right in front of his king to threaten my queen. I simply proceed to take the next pawn down. He brings his rook down below here. I bring my queen up here to go check and fork this pawn. Of course, I'm not going to get that pawn there. But what I am going to do is I'm going to come over here and manipulate his king into check. He pulls his king back here. He's trying to protect and guard these pawns and these pawns. And I've got a runaway passed pawn. I'm going to go get me another queen. Very interesting how this works. My opponent knew that, so he pushes here. I go check. My opponent drops below his rook, so I can't keep going in check. So I push my pawn again. I don't fear whether he can take it with his rook yet. He comes up here to threaten my queen, and I pin his rook to his king here because I want to advance this pawn. Do you see the value of how me using my open files in the 7th rank has been able to get to me queening a pawn? It's very fun to be able to do this. So I push the pawn again, and I'm on his 7th rank with a pawn this time. A very wonderful move. He's pushing pawns like crazy because he realizes the beginning of the end is near, and I get a second queen, and I went on to win the game. I checkmated him in a few short moves. Because of my action of the Alakin gun and my open files, and my ability to use the open files and to contend with him on his 7th rank, I was able to win this game. When you can get a chance to use your rooks on open files, I strongly recommend you do so. If you get a chance to play the Alakin gun, it's pretty fun. It's intimidating. It's quite interesting. He found a way to disrupt my Alakin gun, but that's okay. It still worked anyway because of the pure power of the open file and the 7th and 8th ranks. So thanks for watching my video. Happy checkmating, and I will see you in the next video on the Rooks.